When you grow up and move away from your childhood home, many of us find that we go through changes, very personal changes. But what if your change was of the deadly, hairy, and scary variety?
What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my spookies. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for a little spooky in your weekly. I'm your host and narrator, Enrique Couto, and we have quite the fun story for you tonight. And tonight's episode is dedicated to one of our listeners, my good buddy Dan, also known as Dan the Wolfman. He's recovering from a minor surgery, which hopefully is going very well, and I wanted to give him a little something extra to help with his recovery. So Dan, I hope you're resting well and listening. I know how much you love werewolf stories. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you so much for tuning into the program. I really do appreciate it, and I love bringing you the spooky every single week. If you enjoy what we're doing and you want to support us, one way to do so is simply to go to your favorite podcasting app, make sure you're subscribed, and leave a 5-star rating, especially on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where we have almost 200 reviews on each service. The more reviews we get, the better. All you have to do is select 5 stars if you think we deserve it, and that's all I could ask. If you want to support us in a more direct way, now would be a phenomenal time to join our Patreon. You can find all the information at weeklyspooky.com. And if you want to support us for as little as $1 a month, we appreciate it and will give you exclusive content. But now, my friends, I think there's a full moon arising. And I think I hear a howling off in the distance, and for once, it's not my 2 dogs. It sounds like it might be something a little bit more sinister, a little bit more dangerous. So get comfortable, and we'll head to the story after these quick words from our sponsors. Wolf Rage by Rob Fields. It's Friday night, and I'm out here on the football field at Strickfield High School. It wasn't too long ago I was entertaining people in Malibu, California, as they watched me strut my shit on the runway while posing in the latest fashions. Now I'm strutting my shit to the local crowds in Strickfield, Ohio, in a cheerleading uniform. Yeah, I was on top of the world. I'd made it. I had everything. And I lost it all. Just like that. My name's Danielle Boyd, which my friends usually shorten to Danny Boy. I left Strickfield after junior high was over, taking what little money I had and wearing only the clothes on my back. I was determined to get away from my parents and get to California any way I could. I got there by riding my thumb, and believe me when I say I had no problem getting rides. I didn't even have to show any of my goodies or perform sexual favors. Anyway, I made it to Malibu. Like I said, I had very little money. I was homeless. Here's some irony. When Mom and I had our last fight, she told me I'd never be able to get by on my looks alone. But that's exactly what I ended up doing. I wasn't homeless long before someone from the Inglewood Talent Agency approached me. No, I wasn't being tapped to star in movies, and damn sure not porn. No, I had the look the agent was looking for. So after going through all the formalities, they didn't care I was underage at the time, I ended up posing for magazine ads and appearing in commercials. It wasn't long before I became a runway model, posing in some really extravagant fashions. I didn't become rich, but I was making more than enough money to be able to eat, have fun, and come up with my share of rent once I started living with a few girls from the agency. We were living in a house at the ocean. I had it made. I really felt like I was going to be carefree and living the good life for as long as I wanted to. I always played by the rules when it came to the agency. I didn't drink or do drugs. I did what was asked of me and got paid great money. But she just knew something was going to go horribly wrong. Just looking around this football field now, I'm half naked and feeling my tits bounce as I'm doing the routines. I'm sure plenty of the male population are checking out my ass when I bend over. God, I fucking hate cheerleading. Hate it! I'm only doing it as a kind of meditation. You see, I have some serious anger issues. When the game's over, I'm in the shower and cleaning up. Then I get dressed and start walking back to the apartment that Darla Cantrell, my best friend, is sharing with me. Oh, my parents definitely know I'm back. They let me know on no uncertain terms I'm not welcome back home. Yeah, fuck my parents. My anger issues definitely started with them. My parents are constant Bible thumpers for the First Church of the Divine Power and just kept shoving their religion down my throat. They'd even yell at me for the stupidest shit. They'd make me dress up in the shittiest clothes, and they'd drag me to church as much as possible. My parents hated all the looks people gave me. I guess I made any clothes look good, and my parents accused me of being a flirt, a slut, or a harlot because of it. The day came when they told me I was going to marry the evangelist's son and be his loyal wife. Oh, that was the last fucking straw. My anger built up so much over the years that I finally couldn't take my parents anymore and totally lost my shit. That was when I grabbed the handyman's hammer and started smashing anything in that church I could. I never knew I could get that angry, but goddamn did releasing it just feel exhilarating. When I finished, I walked right out of that church and left for Malibu that very night. When Mom told me before that I'd never make it on my looks, I told her to just watch me. In fact, Mom was quick to tell me that again when she saw I was back in Strickfield. So, here I am, living the poor life again. But I'd rather be living the poor life than living with my parents. I'd rather live my life for me. Do I sound selfish and conceited? Well, you try living with my parents then. Speaking of whom, their van just pulled up beside me. I keep walking, but they're driving to a crawl. I tell them to leave me alone, but they keep telling me I'm a Jezebel who turned her back on God when I walked out on them. Now I know they were at the game and saw me cheerleading. I keep telling them to leave me the fuck alone, that I'm never coming back home. Or back to their church. Finally, Dad gets out of the van and comes at me. He grabs me and tells me they're bringing me back to God if it's the last thing they do. As I'm struggling against Dad, I gasp when I feel the sudden surge throughout my body. I scream and pull free, falling on my ass. I quickly get up and I run. I'm really hating my parents for lighting my fuse right now. I make it into an alley when I feel my clothes starting to get tight and rip. My spine crackles and gets long. My muscles hurt and get bigger and thicker. I feel pricklies as the fur starts growing out. My mouth, my hands, my ears, and my feet start to elongate. My body's even growing. When I finish changing, I'm a big, silver werewolf. When Dad finally comes at me, I glare right at him and roar. I chase my dad back to his van. Mom screams when she sees me. I give her a roar she won't soon forget. When Dad gets the van going, I grab the driver's side door and rip it off. I roar at them before I throw the door away and run after them on all fours. When they make a turn, they feel me slam against the side of the van and make it stop. I pull Dad out and slam him up against the side of the van. I roar again, then Mom comes around with a gun. I'm so pissed at them right now. We parted ways a long time ago. Just leave me the fuck alone. Mom shoots me with a few silver bullets. Oh yeah, that'll work. I slap the gun out of her hand and watch them run away. I really want to tear them apart. The more I think about it, the more I decide they're not worth it. I turn and run before other people can see me. Anyway, now you know why I had to leave Malibu behind. In fact, it was there where I was cursed. Now I know what you're going to ask. Wait a minute, Danny boy. Don't you change only when it's a full moon? You'd figure. I suppose I better explain that. I just finished a follow-up pictorial in Vanity Fair, followed by a runway show. 2 months ago, I posed nude for Vanity Fair. It was quite the artistic pictorial, if I do say so myself. Today, like most days, was a long one. I was very tired and wanted to go home. I was going to get naked and go swimming in the ocean out back like I did most every night. That or some night surfing. For the record, there was a solar eclipse going on. I knew my roommates would be on the upper patio watching it. I just wanted to go swimming. I took a shortcut through Malibu Bluffs Park to save me 10 minutes getting home. Any other night, there was no problem. But not on that eclipse night. No, something was going to happen that would change my life forever. As I walked through the park, I had that strange feeling I was being watched. I walked faster, but still had a little ways to walk before reaching Malibu Road. Suddenly, I heard a loud growl and was attacked by something big. It crashed into me and knocked me on my ass. Then the thing grabbed me, and I screamed as it bit into my naked shoulder and clamped down. Hard. The pain was unbearable, and I couldn't stop screaming. I felt blood slowly running down my skin. I stopped screaming and cried. The more I struggled, the worse the pain got. When I screamed again, the monster finally moved away from me. I think we both heard voices. Something deep down told me I didn't want those people finding me. I forced myself to move and hide in some bushes. A bunch of people hurried past me, probably looking for the thing that bit me. I took my top off to push it against my bites until I could get home. Funny thing, I wasn't hurting anymore. Also, my injuries healed up. Fast. Deep down, I knew shit was going to get real. Just a question of when, not if. When I got home, my roommates saw me and asked what happened. I lied and told them I was daydreaming and tripped on my own feet. Yeah, they didn't believe me. When I assured them I wasn't raped, they left me alone. I got naked and headed out back to do some night swimming. A few weeks later, LaDonna, one of my roommates, asked if I'd pick up her car at the garage since I was off. She gave me her plastic and I went and got her car. I was driving it back to the house. Of course, some drunken fucktard had run a red light and slammed into me. At the same time, I heard a tire blow. I had to fight to control the car, but I still slammed into a tree. I was fine, thanks to the seatbelt. However, I was trapped inside the car, pinned by the steering wheel, and worse, I couldn't open my door. I got scared fast when I saw smoke coming out from under the hood and knew the engine was on fire. This car was going to explode. First, I was bitten by whatever that thing was. Now I was trapped in LaDonna's car. That's 2 nights and 2 weeks I was in situations where I felt like I was going to die. But now I knew I was completely fucked. The more I struggled, the more I got pissed. "I'm not dying, not like this," I yelled. Suddenly, a powerful surge seemingly shot through my body. I screamed when I saw the whole front of the car was on fire now. That sudden surge made me feel so weird. What was happening to me? I felt myself aching all over. I heard my clothes ripping and saw my top and booty shorts were coming apart. And I started to feel amazingly strong. Hair was growing all over my body. I felt my mouth stretching out. My teeth were getting really sharp. I could see my fingers turning into claws. I kept changing. I put my clawed hand on the side of the door and pushed it away. I grabbed the steering wheel and easily broke it off. I got out of the car and leaped away from it, just as it exploded. I landed on my hind legs. I looked myself over and saw I was covered with silver fur. I looked and felt incredibly strong. I was much taller. I had claws for hands, wolf-like feet, and even a long tail. I wanted to ask, what the actual fucking fuck? But all that came out was a bunch of growls. I was attacked by a werewolf and survived. So now the curse finally caught up to me. Only there were a few things wrong with my particular story. 1, there was no full moon. 2, I could think for myself, not like a beast. I knew my name was Danielle Boyd and lived in Malibu, California. I knew I was a fucking werewolf. I couldn't speak as a human, but I could think in English just fine. I was a werewolf for the rest of that night. When daylight came, I was still a werewolf. Would I be what was supposed to be a creature of the night? Forever? Fortunately, no. As I hid and sat down to think, I started to change. I was Danielle Boyd again, and completely naked. A few cops saw me and chased me down. I lost them fast. I made it home and got inside through an open window. After I took a shower, I got dressed and took an Uber to the agency. And that's where things got messy. Don't go away. Weekly Spooky will be right back. I was modeling some new designer swimwear. The photographer, Kendall Boswell, was a real asshole who liked biting and snapping at everyone. Kendall's pissed me off many times. I'm in this shoot with Paris, my other roommate, who's a very sensitive girl. Almost midway through the shoot, Kendall pushed Paris to the point where she started to cry. I comforted Paris and told Kendall to go get fucked. He never liked when I stood up to him. He quickly put the camera down, then he lashed out, slapped me, and told me to start knowing my place. Oh, did I ever see red, and that sudden surge hit me like lightning. Kendall got scared quick and pissed his pants when he saw me changing. I felt the pain when I changed. Soon, I was a werewolf again. Just like before, I was fully aware of everything, including the fact that I was still seeing red. I grabbed Kendall and lifted him off the floor. He screamed and shrieked like a little girl. I wanted to yell, "Fuck you!" but all that came out was a loud roar. I heard Paris scream and looked to see her hands were covering her mouth and her eyes were wide open. I dropped Kendall, who got up and ran away like his ass depended on it. I turned to tell Paris not to be scared. I just couldn't speak English, only growl and snap. I held up my clawed hands to tell Paris to calm down, but she screamed again. Then the security guards were coming. I turned and escaped, running on all fours. I crashed through a window and dropped to the alley below. It was still daytime. More people saw me and screamed. I turned and ran. I kept running until I got back to the house. I crawled in through a window and sat in a corner. I needed to think, As time passed, I was calming down and relaxing to where I could change back to my human form again. Like before, I was completely naked. Being honest, I love my body. Before this shit happened, I'd catch hell from Paris and LaDonna for walking around the house naked. They'd really give me hell when I answered the door naked to the pizza guys. I didn't care. I feel free when I'm naked. Besides, pizza delivery boys know what naked females look like, right? But seeing my nudity now reminded me I was cursed. And I cried. That werewolf attacked me and passed his shit to me. Somehow I knew deep down the werewolf that attacked me was a normal one, not capable of thinking the way I could. Also, it was during a solar eclipse, which probably counted as a full moon. The more I thought about it, the more I felt it had to be the eclipse. How else could I explain my unique differences from regular werewolves? At least as I understand them from books and movies. I decided to find the werewolf who turned me and tear that fucker apart. I waited until the next full moon and went back to Malibu Bluffs Park. I hung around there and waited. Then I saw I was still human, which meant I did not change during a full moon. Was being cursed under a lunar eclipse really that big of a deal? Shows how much I know about things like werewolves. And I fucking hate horror movies. Suddenly, the monster shot out of the bushes and attacked me. After we rolled around, I got up and faced the fucker. Oh, I was pissed. I was fighting mad. I gasped when the powerful surge hit me, and the other wolf watched as I changed. When I was finished, I roared and attacked. At first, I was fighting like an animal. Then I remembered I could actually think. So I used my skills that I learned on the streets and started kicking the other werewolf's ass. I relished every bit of this. I was going to rip that other wolf into as many pieces as I could. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Those people showed up again, and they had shotguns. I easily saw the one leading them. He was a big, fat hillbilly Bob with a camouflage vest, a hunting cap, and a shotgun of his own. Those people wasted no time shooting first and asking questions later. We both got shot up with silver bullets. I didn't even fight back. The truth was I really didn't want this curse. And no such luck. The fucker who turned me was definitely killed. In fact, that werewolf turned back into some fuckwad I'd never even seen before. Me, I suddenly sat right up. I was still a werewolf, and all the silver bullets were popping right out of me. Seriously? When I stood up, the hunters and I had a brief stare down before I surprised them. I moved my hand to my shoulder and acted like I was brushing dirt off it. Then I raised both my middle fingers to them and ran off to quickly leave them behind. That was it. That was the end of Malibu for me. I couldn't stay there anymore. Especially with those hillbilly Bobs and Bessies who hunted my kind being around like that. Okay, silver bullets couldn't kill me, and I wasn't waiting around for those trigger-happy fuckers to find something that would. But what hurt more was that Paris was scared of me, so I couldn't live at the house with her and LaDonna anymore. Plus, other people had seen me change. My dream life in Malibu was fucked. I was fucked. After I got dressed, I left my final share of the rent on the kitchen table with a note saying goodbye and walked out for the last time. All I had was the money I had on me and the clothes on my back. The only place I could go was back to Strickfield. As before, I walked and rode my thumb. Along the way, I worked a few odd jobs for room and board when offered, which was how I learned about working on a farm. I finally made it back to Strickfield. There was no way I was going back home, though. It wouldn't matter. Someone would eventually tell my parents I was back. Like when I first got to Malibu, I was all set to live on the streets. Then my childhood friend, Darla Cantrell, saw me. I kept in touch with her since leaving Strickfield. She was my best friend and I couldn't just shit on her. I didn't want to tell her I was homeless. I could never get anything past Darla, though. She quickly invited me to come live with her at her apartment at Strickfield Cove. Darla was a senior at Strickfield High School. However, she worked as a stripper at Sexpectations, a gentleman's club just a couple miles outside the village. She really didn't care if the principal of the high school found out or not. She started working as a stripper just after she turned 18. Darla told me she could get me a job at Sexpectations. I would have liked to have taken it, but I knew I had to stay out of the limelight. Darla told me about the kinds of assholes that frequent there. I didn't need to lose my shit because of them. Darla talked me into coming to school with her. Strickfield High always has open enrollment. When I was modeling, the agency I worked for got teachers for me since I couldn't go to public school on account of the job. I just had to get through senior year and would do it at Strickfield High. When I was enrolling, Principal Matthew Van Diest couldn't keep his eyes off of my bust line. He's a man, so I couldn't really blame him. Anyway, I loved the attention. I quickly noticed he had his eyes on some skinny chick named Bella Tabon, who would soon become one of my fellow cheerleaders. So there I was, in an actual high school. It really hurt deep inside. I missed Malibu so much, I knew I could never go back. Thanks to my curse, I had fallen from grace. I didn't know how smart those hillbilly Bob werewolf hunters were, but I couldn't take the chance of tapping any of the money I put in my bank account back in California. I didn't need to bring those fucks to Strickfield. I filled out some job applications and got a night management position at Roth's Rings, a 24-hour donut shop near the university. The pay wasn't bad and the hours were great. At least it was something until I could find something better. Darla talked me into going out for the cheerleading squad. At first, I didn't want to. Finally, I gave in and tried out. I made the cut. Darla still wasn't giving up on trying to get me to come to work with her at Sexpectations. "Come on, Danny boy, you know you wanna," she says at lunch break. "You're just dying to show off that sizzling body of yours. You always walk around our apartment naked, so do it for an appreciative audience and get paid good for it." I shake my head. I'll keep making donuts and shaking my TNA on Friday nights. Thanks anyway. Darla flashes her sexy smile. "Stephen Chase is looking at you right now. I can tell he's carrying a torch for you." Stephen Chase is in most of my classes, including the one I'm in now. He seems like a good guy. I can tell he wants to ask me out, but he's having a hard time approaching me. I definitely can't hide my feelings from Darla. She knows I'm considering giving him a chance, if he asks me. But dare I take that leap? How do I explain it to him when I get pissed off and change? And could he deal with a girl with serious anger issues? And again, I relegate myself to playing the shy girl. I just can't get romantic with anybody. There can never be a normal me again. I put my hands on my forehead and groan. Suddenly, Mr. Scott Sanborn is on me and points right at me. "Since you seem to think my lecture's boring, you can take over and explain the problem on the board." I try to protest, at least to get my shoes. He won't even let me do that. Now I'm standing in front of the class. Every guy's checking out my bare legs and feet as I'm explaining how to do the problem. Darla gives me that smirk that tells me I'm out there now, and guys are going to be asking me out. Then she blows me a kiss. After I finish drying off from taking a shower, I walk to my room to get dressed for work. Darla sees me in the hallway and gives me that look again. "Really, Danny boy? You can't wear a towel to your room?" She gives me a sexy smile. "Seriously, you want to be naked all the time? Come to work at Sexpectations with me." I smirk. "What's the matter? Does me being naked make you nervous?" I point at her. "Ain't no different than you walking around in your underwear." Darla groans again when she knows she won't win with me. Suddenly, the door bursts open. My parents are there, along with some of their church people, and They've got guns. Get the fuck out of here, Darla demands. One of the fuckers raises his gun and shoots Darla in the shoulder, making her drop fast. I scream in terror, and then Dad shoots me. But it's a dart. I'm falling to the floor in just seconds. I wake up to some familiar surroundings. I'm in the basement of the First Church of the Divine Power, a church my parents have been devout followers of. I'm in an office. I feel the gag and the handcuffs behind my back. Your father told you we were bringing you back to God, Danielle, Mom says. Then I see the fucker who shot Darla, and I scream in rage through my gag. I'll fucking kill you! And then I hear Darla moan and see her tied and gagged across the room. She looks pretty bad, probably from blood loss. Then Mom says to me, your friend there lived in sin and wanted to take my baby girl with her. She deserves to die. She points at me. You owe God. He gave you your great beauty, and all you did was squander it. You even went against God's plan for you to marry the evangelist's son. Fuck you! I growl through the gag. Mom tightens her jaw and slaps me hard across the face. Don't you ever use vulgarity in God's house. She holds up a copy of Vanity Fair from 2 months ago. She slaps me harder, confirming she's seen my nude pictorial. I close my eyes in pain. Then Mom says in disgust, how dare you? Then she says to the cultist who shot Darla, give Danielle's friend her final judgment. She turns to Darla. You tainted my baby girl, and now you're going straight to hell. When Darla screams through her gag, I shake with anger and open my eyes. Mom, the cultists, and Darla gasp with surprise. Turns out when my fire gets burning, my eyes turn blood red. I feel that incredible surge throughout my body again. I have an oversized t-shirt on me, but it becomes too tight and rips apart as I change. The handcuffs break on both shackles. When I stand up, the cultist who shot Darla shoots me in the face. I want to scream at him, but all that comes out are angry roars. The bullet pops out of my face, and I heal up fast. I grab the bastard's gun and break it. Then I hit him hard enough to send him through the wall. Now I turn to Mom, to see her shaking all over. She makes the sign of the cross as she utters, oh God in heaven, Danielle, oh my baby. My fire is a raging inferno. All I see is pure red. To think these fuckers were spying on me the whole time. Mom and Dad knew everything I was doing in Malibu with the exception of getting cursed. In my pissed off state, I remember that I call the shots when it comes to my werewolf body. Then I get shot again. I look and see Dad emptying his pistol into me. Silver bullets. Like in Malibu, they just pop right out of my body. I roar in utter rage and knock Dad aside. I even shove Mom on her ass. The other cultists try and attack me, but I easily throw them off. Darla looks at me with wide eyes as I untie her and lift her into my arms and get her out of that church. I run as fast as my hind legs can move me and quickly get Darla to the hospital. 3 days later, I'm leaving Strickfield. I'm still reading yesterday's paper. It says everybody at the First Church of the Divine Power was slaughtered. In fact, the event is being called the Strickfield Church Massacre. But I know I didn't kill anybody. The police talked to me but couldn't connect me with the event. They even questioned Darla, and she didn't say one word to them about me. I could see she was afraid of me, though. I had no choice. I had to leave Strickfield and keep moving from town to town. I have to stay away from people, period. My life is totally fucked now. Suddenly, A car pulls up beside me. "Stop right there, Danny boy." Darla. She's out of the hospital with a sling on her arm. I can tell she's still hurting, but here she is with her car. "I'm not coming back, Darla," I reply. "You saw what I am." Darla gets out of her car and comes to me. "You didn't kill those people. I was there with you." I shake my head, but I can't prove it wasn't me. "So you're gonna run?" Darla snaps. "You're gonna take the blame? Bullshit!" She shoves me. "You're coming home with me, and we are gonna figure out the truth together." "But I'm a monster, Darla," I remind her. Darla growls and shoves me again. "So fucking use it! Find the fuckers who did the massacre! Clear your name! Stop fucking running away, Danny boy! You're stronger than this." When Darla hugs me, I know I can't run from her. Darla truly is my dearest friend. I agree to return to Strickfield with her. We have to solve the Strickfield Church massacre, which means I'll be back to share more of my exploits with you fine people. But until then, ta-ta. An oddly touching, yet hair-raising tale to say the least, and I certainly enjoyed that one. Anytime we get to go back to Strickfield and have a little hairy, scary good time, I'm okay with. And I hope you enjoyed that, my good buddy Wolfman Dan. Keep on resting and recovering, and we'll be talking real soon. Hey, when you're a friend of Weekly Spooky, when you're a friend of mine, I try to do what I can to cheer you up a little bit. And I hope everybody's doing very well this week. We have a lot of cool things coming right up here at Weekly Spooky, including a mini-series next month that I know you're going to enjoy. So keep your eyes out for that and make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you never miss a single update. Also, you may have noticed the last few Fridays I've been publishing Edgar Allan Poe stories. I hope you give them a listen if you love classic terror as much as I do. And I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon backers. You guys keep the show going, even as listenership kind of bounces around in the summertime before our big October season. And an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names on the show, and they are Bobbletopia.com, where you can get 10% off with code WeeklySpooky. Megan Hua, Julia Kirsch, Brent McCullough, Gino Lyons, Steve King, Karen Weemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so much, and if you want to hear your name on the end of every Weekly Spooky, just go to weeklyspooky.com, click on Patreon, and select any tier, $15 or higher. But now, my friends, I need to get out of here and get ready for our next big show. So until then, my friends, stay safe, stay well, and for myself, for our executive producer Rob Fields, our producer Dan Wilder, and our composer Ray Mattis, I will talk at you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.